Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Torah with your host, Rabbi Anibal. I'm so happy to share this virtual classroom with all of you once again to continue our weekly study of the weekly Parshat Shavua. And what a special Parsha we have this week. Some very interesting traditions come from this week's Parsha. If you believe the words of the rabbis, you will see in a minute what I'm talking about. But before we do that, I would like to welcome everyone. And I know the chat's been active for a while now. So welcome Priscilla Kerr. Welcome Shelly Chochinov. Karen Farkas. Who else is here? Judge Rocky Pollack. And you said Happy USA Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. David and Brenda Grossman are here as well. Thanksgiving, which is interesting. You know how you say Thanksgiving in Hebrew? You said Hodu from Lehodot. Lehodot, right? It's interesting because the word Jew, like we are Jewish, like the word Jew comes from Judah, and in Hebrew Yehudah also comes from the word lehodot, which means to give thanksgiving, right? So the concept of thanksgiving is very Jewish. It's in our name. It's in our name. But there's something even more interesting about Thanksgiving and Hodu, and is that during Thanksgiving, both United States and Canada, even though we celebrate on a different date, we have the tradition to eat turkey. Have you realized that? And you know how you say turkey in Hebrew? Hodu. You know that? You know that in Hebrew, both Thanksgiving and turkey is Hodu. Think about that. Is it a coincidence? I don't know. Because this is something that the tradition started in the United States, in Canada, but without having any relationship with the Hebrew language. But it's a nice coincidence that both are called Hodu. So yeah. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone who is celebrating. We have lots of friends from the United States connecting to this class. So we say happy Thanksgiving to you. In Canada, we already had it. And yeah, I don't know. Have you been following the World Cup at all? Is it something that you guys do? The soccer World Cup. Maybe some of you say, what are you talking about? It's one of the most controversial soccer or football, the way we call it, World Cup in modern history, with all the implications of the host of the cup and lots of things. So I don't know if you've been following along. I like soccer, but I'm not a super fan. So basically all I do is to check the results in the morning. Sometimes I have the app in my phone. I'm not the one that it will... I have some of my friends that they woke up at 4 in the morning to watch the Argentina versus Saudi Arabia game. 4 in the morning just to witness Saudi Arabia beating Argentina 2-1, which was shocking for everyone. But I felt sorry for everyone waking up at 4 in the morning. I was just sleeping, woke up at 7, checked my phone. Oh well, we lost. Anyway. So I hope I'm not offending anyone if we have every super fan there. I wish you all the best and enjoy the game. Shelly Chochinov said, yes, you've been following. Not glued to it, but I do follow. Okay, yeah, I pretty much do the same. So, and another thing that I noticed, if you follow me on Facebook, you will see I actually posted it there. If you don't follow me on Facebook, maybe you should send me a friend request. And I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. I don't do. I have a TikTok, but I never use it. Same with Twitter. I don't even have the app on my phone for years now, but Facebook and Instagram I do. One of the things about the Soccer World Cup, talking about Hodu and Thanksgiving and good manners, I don't know if you noticed that after the game of Japan versus Germany, some of the Japan fans stay in the stadium and they cleaned it up. They actually took bags and started to clean up the stadium, just out of their good heart. Just that I've been reading that's very common in Japanese society, even at schools, for example. Some schools, they don't even have janitorial stuff. The kids will do everything, and that's something that they learn from early age, and I think it's good. It's good. It was very interesting. Priscilla, I forgot that. Priscilla, you said, yes, I married a Japanese guy, and they are the best. Okay, good for you. So yeah, lots of respect for those fans that stay behind. They won the game. Japan beat Germany. So any other country, they will go to the bar and celebrate. Well, I don't know. I think they're not allowed to have alcohol there. But anyway, they stay behind cleaning up. So good manners, good manners. Now, this week's Parsha is very interesting because it pushed me to research and to study a little bit more about something that I've been doing for a long time, but I never really had the opportunity to study to this depth, if you wish. I'm talking about bar and bat mitzvah. See, I've been teaching bar bat mitzvah for years and years and years and years, and I know a little bit about it. But the interesting thing is, what is all this coming from? Why do we have a bar bat mitzvah ceremony? It's not in the Torah, at least not explicitly. That's what we are going to see today. And the rabbis pretty much decided that that's what we have to do. And I wanted to show to you why the rabbis insist that we should have bar bat mitzvah. We are going to also explore a very interesting question. What if you didn't celebrate when you were 12 or 13 and you're in your 50s or 60s or 70s or 40s? Should you do it? Should you have an adult bar bat mitzvah? Well, hopefully we are going to have the opportunity to answer that question as well. If I forget towards the end of the class, please remind me. I know you have good memory. Hello, Ariel Lee. Welcome to the class. Welcome to the class. Priscilla, you said Japanese do that all the time. In every show that happened in Sao Paulo as well. Yeah, I heard it's very common that some fans, they stay behind and then clean up everything, and not just their mess, everybody else's mess as well. So let's study this week's parsha. Now, why do I say that this week parsha is talking about bar bat mitzvah? There is an episode that is happening here that triggered the rabbis' curiosity. It's talking about Jacob and Esau. Remember, Jacob is our third patriarch. We have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But Jacob was a twin. He has a twin brother, Esau. And this week's parsha is going to give us more information about the two of them, and it's going to show us how they were very, very, very different. Sometimes it happened. You can have twins that they are very similar. I had such twins when I was a student in elementary school. We had twins. We had every grade has A and B. It's like my son, for example. My son is in grade 4A here at Grey Academy, but there is also 4B. So there was this twin brothers. One was an A, the other one was a B. They split them. But even though they were split into different classrooms, they were very similar in their character. But I also met other twins that they were not so similar. They were very different in character. They looked the same, but they were very different. Welcome, Amparo Goldman. Welcome to the class. So we are going to talk about these twin brothers here, Jacob and Esau. Okay, and that will be the base text for this week's parsha. And let me show you. So the Torah says in this week's section, in Genesis 25:27, if you want to go check, it says, Va'igdalu hanearim. That's in Hebrew. In English, the lads or the young men grew up, okay? And Esau became one who knows hunting, a man of the field. But Jacob was a wholesome man, abiding in tents. Now, it's interesting. it's interesting because there is one word here that makes it very interesting. Why is the Torah mentioning their differences after it says the lads grew up? You understand that? Because the Torah could have just presented Genesis 25:27 without the first two words, right? Va'igdelu hanearim, and the boys grew up. We don't need that. All you need to say is Esau became one who knows hunting, a man of the field, but Jacob was a wholesome man, abiding in tents. That's it. And it will be very clear. So again, the rabbis always, when you have these seemingly unnecessary words, the rabbis usually catch them. And then they said, whoa, why do we need Va'igdelu hanearim? The lads grew up. Well, the Midrash is going to try to answer that question, and that is going to start our learning about the tradition of bar bat mitzvah. Before that, Shelly Chochin, if you have a question, what do they mean by wholesome? Wholesome. It's like the word tam. How can I define that? That could be sometimes it's used as perfect. Sometimes it's used as like a simple. It has many different connotations, but in this context, my reading is talking about an ethical man. Later on, we'll see that he caught a few not so nice tricks, right? But in general, he was maybe compared to his brother. We saw that when we study about Noah. Noah was righteous in his generation. Compared to the other people. So this is the same. We are comparing two brothers here, and that was the way they look. They look different. Now, the fact that it says that all the description comes after the words "the boys grew up," made the Midrash said something very interesting. Hello, Ari Haz. Welcome to the class. And then we have C. Sam Bailey. Blessing from SoCal. Welcome to the class. Okay, the Midrash Rabbah. Rabbi Levi said, they, Jacob and Esau, were like a myrtle and a wild rose bush that they were growing side by side. When they had grown and blossomed, one gave forth its fragrance and the other gave forth its thorns. It looks like this to the myrtle and the rose bush. You know, before they blossom, it's very difficult to recognize one from the other, right? And sometimes it happens. And here, basically, what it's saying is that when Jacob and Esau were little kids, they were little kids. They're little kids. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, they misbehave, they listen to the parents. But the little kids, they do kid things until they start figuring things out, right? And then it's when they start showing their true essence. Let's continue. Similarly, for the first 13 years, can you see the number here? The Midrash is bringing a specific number. The Midrash is bringing the number 13. It said for the first 13 years, both of the boys went to school, came back from school. After 13 years, however, one of them, Jacob, began to go to the house of study, and the other one, Esau, began to go to idolatrous shrines. Said Rabbi Elazar, a man must be responsible for his son until the age of 13. Thereafter he must say, blessed is he who has exempted me from being punished on account of this one. By the way, that blessing, Baruch Sheptarani Me'onsho Shelazeh in Hebrew. Some synagogues still ask, some rabbis, they still ask the parents of a bar bat mitzvah to say that at the time of the bar mitzvah in front of the congregation. We don't do it at the Shari Zedek, kind of. That's not our tradition, but some more traditional synagogues, they will ask the parents to recite that. And it's coming from the Midrash Rabbah. So, in other words, what we have here is up to age 13, a person is a kid. What do they know? What do kids know? So, the parents are responsible. They do something bad. They break something on a store. The parents have to go and pay for it, right? But according to the Midrash, once they become 13, we don't have the number 12 yet for girls. Okay, be patient. It's coming soon. Back in those days, after the age 13, they were responsible for their actions. Why? Because it was considered that they already have enough information about how the world works to understand the concept of action-reaction, or cause and consequences. Okay? But I wanted to bring this text because it introduces us with the number 13, which is the number that we use for bar mitzvah. Any comments? If you have any questions at every time, please let me know. Okay, I'm always happy to try to answer if I can. Now, let's try to let's continue with some comments. Many rabbis' comments that text from the Midrash. So I want to bring to you this comment from the 1800s. A man must be responsible for his son until the age of 13 to rebuke him for any wrong that he does. And by the way, I know that in these days, if we have to write text like this, we will be very careful about to be gender neutral and inclusive and all that. But I purposely sometimes try to leave the text in the original form so you can also see how things were written back in the day. Okay, I didn't want to edit it, but just please understand that this was written in the 1800s. So a man must be responsible for his son until the age of 13 to rebuke him for any wrong that he does. For until the age of 13, a boy is open to accepting his father's admonitions and correcting his ways. Since it is the father's responsibility to reprimand his son, should he fail to do so, it is he who will be subject to the punishments associated with his son's misdeeds. After the age of 13, a father's rebuke is no longer effective, and a boy's spiritual faculties are sufficiently developed for him to be held responsible for his own misdeeds. It's very interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. I want to see the comment here from Rocky Pollack. So, you said, Rocky, if the parents fail in 13 years to instill proper values, they are still free from parental responsibilities. Well, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And in the rabbinic rulings, actually, if something happened during the first 13 years, the parents are responsible. After the age 13, they are not technically responsible anymore. Could have they do better? Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. We don't know. All we know is, take this from what is coming, right? This was a different world back in the day. A different world. Probably kids had the pressure to, quote unquote, mature a little faster than they have today because of the way the society was built. Okay? The way schools were created or designed, and the way their integration into the workforce and other things in society were happening. So we live in different society now, and it's different for us to understand that. Very difficult to understand that. Because today, until the age of 18, sometimes they can't even drink. Or so there are many different, and the school system is designed in a way that they still receive rebuke and guidance. Let's put it that way. They have to follow the rules, and you will see once they go into university, everything changes, and they have way more freedom. It's a reality that the kind of discipline they have to follow in elementary or high school, it doesn't work anymore. So you see, when it says the father's responsibility to reprimand his son, it's not just his father. It's talking about any kind of authority. Could be the school, could be the teacher. I think there's the way the rabbis write here, the metaphors used are wide enough to understand that it's not just the biological father. Okay. Rocky, you said current law also credits youth with diminished moral culpabilities. Yeah, and there is a whole controversy in these days, right, Rocky, about what should be the age, to consider a kid responsible. And correct me if I'm wrong. Society is trying to constantly try to push for a lower and lower and lower threshold, which I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with the number 13 again. That would be interesting. Right? And I don't know which number is in Canada. That's an interesting thing. And I don't know if any country have had the number 13, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of them do. Okay, so this is one explanation. Now it's interesting because this Rabbi Hanok Zundel ben Yosef, from the 1800s, I said he tried to play some kind of psychology here to try to understand the rationale of the bar mitzvah, on the rationale of the number 13 applied to the bar mitzvah. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's continue. We have here another comment from another rabbi, Rabbi Alpert, who says the following: the obligation of mitzvot. Now we are talking specifically about bar mitzvah in Jewish terms, in the sense that at the age of 13, a boy has the obligation to fulfill the mitzvot, okay, the commandments. Listen to this. The obligation of mitzvot is automatic and begins from the moment the sun sets on the day that a child becomes bar mitzvah, without the need for any agreement or consent on his part. Okay? This is very interesting for all of you to understand, that a boy becomes bar mitzvah at age 13 with or without a ceremony. That's what it says. It doesn't have to be any formalities. You don't have to come to a synagogue to pay for a tutor and to have an aliyah to become a bar mitzvah. You become a bar mitzvah right away when you are 13, according to this interpretation. Okay? So let's continue. Therefore, unlike somebody who acts improperly, we attach the term son to a bar mitzvah boy. The word bar means son. Okay, it's another word we use for bar. You will see sometimes I've seen it in cemeteries when they use a Hebrew name for a man. Sometimes they use Ben, sometimes they use bar. I've seen it in Argentina a lot. It's another way, because bar also could means Ben Rav, the son of the Rav, and Rav not in the sense of a rabbi, but in the sense of the honorable, son of the honorable. But it's also the word bar. Hello, Howard Haimovich from Miramichi, New Brunswick. It's sunny today. Good. So let's continue. Therefore, unlike somebody who acts improperly, we attach the term son to a bar mitzvah boy, the word bar mitzvah son, where a transgressor is termed Baal Aveira, owner of a sin. The conceptual difference between the terms son and owner are clear and significant. Now we have a very interesting insight here. Very interesting insight. In the sense that now we are asking a different question. Why we call it bar mitzvah and not Baal mitzvah? Baal mitzvah means the owner of the mitzvah. Okay? The same way that for somebody is all the opposite from a bar mitzvah, which is a sinner, you said Baal Avera and not Bar Avera. Is that clear? Okay. A son is a son by virtue of his birth and will never cease to be a son. He might become distant or even estranged, yet he will forever remain part of the family. So too, the status of each Jew, status hinted in the words bar mitzvah, the son of a mitzvah. Okay? Of each Jew it is written, you are children of the Lord your God. Each Jew, even the most strange from the Torah lifestyle, remains a Jew. Even if he transgresses, he's still called a Jew. In contrast to a bar mitzvah is the Baal Avera, the owner of a transgression. Ownership comes and goes, and ownership of a transgression can be reversed through repentance and regret. The transgression is not part of a Jew's integral nature. It is performed out of free will, choosing between two alternatives. This choice remains after committing a transgression as well, enabling the person to repent. Consequently, the expression for one who transgresses is called Baal Avera and not Bar Avera. And this is very interesting. This is very interesting, the fact that we call it bar mitzvah, and the fact that you become a bar mitzvah even without a ceremony. Because if you will need a ceremony or an affirmation or a ritual to become a bar mitzvah, then the concept of Baal mitzvah will make more sense. The sense that you have to purposely express desire to own it. As I said, when you own something, you pay for it, you sign a contract, so forth. Okay? But bar mitzvah is like a birth. You don't ask to be born. You're just born. You do. You are. So bar mitzvah is the same. You don't ask to be a bar mitzvah. You become a bar mitzvah the day of your 13th birthday. Okay? Now, I don't know. I don't know if you already start asking yourself or myself the fact. Hello, Denise. Welcome to the class. Where is the number 13 coming from? Because so far we haven't found anything. I can understand most of the rationale here. Okay. And I say we were having this conversation, and with your insight in the chat, we can understand. We can understand. But where is the number 13 coming from? Why do we take it as it's coming from God? Well, that question was sent to actually a famous rabbi from the 1200s, Rabbi Asher ben Yehiel. Okay, he was sent that question. Where is the number 13 coming from, Rabbi? I've been listening to bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, but I understand why we need to be bar mitzvah. I understand why is bar mitzvah not Baal mitzvah, but why the number 13? Why the number 13? Well, listen to this. This is the answer from the rabbi, by the way, after a letter was sent to him. That which you asked. From where do we know that a 13-year-old is considered an adult? No, that this was given to Moshe at Sinai. What does it mean? Who can tell me what does this mean? Meanwhile, I want to see what Howard Heimovich is saying. You say, I knew a very elder Jew in Ottawa who was so poor on bar mitzvah time that he never had a bar mitzvah, yet in his old age he was one of the richest men in Ottawa. Yeah, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. We are trying to avoid that from happening. We have many people, especially new immigrants, they cannot afford a bar mitzvah following North American standards, right? With everything that is expected, from paying for lessons to paying for a kiddush and a little celebration. So we help them, so nobody will go away without a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah. But yes, is it? And I know that the ceremony is not important, but it's by now it became a tradition to have one. Okay. So, but back to this. What is Rabbi Asher ben Yehiel saying here? Where is this coming from? Where is the number 13 coming from? What do you read from this? No clue? No clue where it's coming from, but I will tell you where it's coming from. It says here, but every time that a rabbi will say, this was given to Moshe at Sinai, given to Moses at Sinai, it means it's not in the Torah. You won't find a verse letting you know that you become a bar mitzvah at age 13. It means that it was given to Moses orally at Sinai. It's not written anywhere. So how do rabbis know that is the age 13? Well, because their teacher taught them. And how did their teachers know? Well, because their teachers taught them. So every time that that's happening, at the end we say, well, this is because they came from Sinai. It was giving as oral law to Moses, but it's not necessarily in the Torah. Now, Karen Farkas, you said that is around the age of puberty, so responsibility for actions become more impactful. And yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And that's what I would like to mention next. And how does the other hint that we have, and that is the connection, not just the first part of the explanation that I gave to you guys has to do with intellectual development, right? Is the age when kids start figuring things out. Even the question when the parents start rebuking them or the teachers is the moment they say, hey, why do I actually have to listen to you? I never realized that before. I don't really have to do what you say. It happens to every parent. Eventually it does happen, right? So anyway, I think it's happening earlier and earlier, but that's maybe as a conversation for a different time. But now, Karen, you bring another layer, which is not just the intellectual development, but is what I would call the hormonal development and change of boys and girls around that time. Okay, and Shelley Chochinov, you said girls often mature earlier. Yeah, it might be that's why bat mitzvah is age 12. But let's continue with some very interesting comments from rabbis here. See, this rabbi from Lithuania, he said, a girl becomes bat mitzvahs at 12. So, again, it was, the bat mitzvah is not something from the 20th or, 21st century. It's coming from many years ago, okay? It was discussed already. A girl becomes bat mitzvah at 12, whereas a boy becomes bar mitzvah at 13, because the body's physical development, mitzvah point for Karen Farkas, goes in tandem with emotional and spiritual maturity, and because girls develop earlier physically, mitzvah point for Shelley Chochinov. And because girls develop earlier physically, their emotional and spiritual maturity is earlier too. Okay? And there is another, because if you think that the bat mitzvah is kind of a later development, the Mishnah already talks about bat mitzvah. And the Mishnah brings another source, which is very interesting as well. It says a girl that has grown 2 pubic hairs is obligated in all the mitzvot of the Torah, bat mitzvah. A boy that has grown 2 pubic hairs is obligated in all the mitzvot of the Torah. Okay? A little funny. It's a little funny, but it's making a direct connection. I think it's a very interesting source. Already in the Mishnah, we see a direct connection with the age of bar bat mitzvah with puberty. Yeah. And I know this is, they could have followed this ruling instead of coming out with the specific age of 13 and 12. But my guess is the rabbis prefer to go with a fixed date because it's easier and more convenient for everybody. Can you imagine if you never know how to plan your bar bat mitzvah, you have to wait until you have somebody witnessing your body, which is totally embarrassing, not practical. Okay? So this Mishnah as an instruction never prospered. But it's giving us a hint of why we celebrate the bar bat mitzvah. So, yeah, that's the thing. Any other comments or other than Shelley laughing about this? Okay. So, oops. Let's continue. Listen to this. Every person needs to know that from the moment that his reproductive organs begin to develop, he's no longer living in a personal, private state of existence. Listen to this, because what this rabbi is answering is, okay, bar mitzvah, it has to do with puberty, but why do we need to become son of the commandments or daughter of the commandments at that specific time? This is an answer. He says these physical processes enable him, or her in this case, right? So let's start thinking about, at this point it's good to start thinking about both genders. To be a parent to children, a progenitor of a new generation, the life that he received from three partners, his father, his mother, and creator, is now commanded to pass on to the next generation together with his two partners, the spouse that God will send him, the divine spirit that will reside between them. Preparation for the great responsibility of parenthood must begin from the initial moments of sexual maturation. The young person must even then understand, chances are that you will be a parent to children. So that's why it's the time to start taking things seriously. Hey, you could be a parent. You could make somebody else pregnant. You could become pregnant, right? It's a big responsibility. It's not just about, I was studying this the other day with, I think it was this past Sunday, with the Choosing Judaism class. We're talking about how to fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urbu, which is at the beginning of the Genesis, when God said to humanity, be fruitful and multiply. How do you fulfill that? Doesn't mean that you have to go around having children. And then we studied that it's not at all. It's not about going around having children. It's about having the maturity to actually nurture children. That's the way you fulfill with the mitzvah. So you have to be, when you start maturing sexually, you have to be aware of the responsibilities, the new responsibilities that you have now that your bodies are changing that way. Okay? And that's when we automatically become son or daughter of the commandments. Denise, you said, does this couch adulthood differently for every child? Well, if you go back to this one, it seems to imply that yes, every person is different, right? Every person is different, because some people can become, can go through puberty at age 10 or sometimes even 11, right? Or some people go a little later, 13, 14, depends. But the rabbis kind of took the average and standardized it that way, so it becomes more manageable at a community level to ritualize that transition. So basically, at the end of the day, the bar bat mitzvah is so important because the transition, the changes of our body were ritualized. We have a ritual to celebrate the changes and also to give us the opportunity to commit to this kind of different and more responsible life that we have in front of us, where we understand that we have new responsibilities. We have to understand that. Now, there is also another question that sometimes parents ask me when they have to calculate the bar or bat mitzvah. Is it, we all know that it's age 13 or 12, but is it according to the civil calendar, or is it according to the lunar or the Jewish calendar? Have you ever heard that? Is it about the civil calendar or the Jewish calendar? Think about it in a minute. Going back to you, Denise, you said a fixed age is normalizing it as well. Yeah, but in civil society you have it as well, right? It's like, let's say Canada decided that adulthood is age 18. But we all know that that's relative. That's relative. Some people are not nearly ready at age 18. Some people are ready at age 15. You will see some very mature kids out there. So it's also relative, but in order to be manageable, you have to create a standard, right? And yeah. So, Brenda, you said Jewish. Karen, you said Jewish also. Jewish calendar. Karen Farkas, same with driving. You mean driving follows a Jewish calendar? No, just kidding. Yeah, driving is also just one age, but we know that some people are never ready, are really never ready to drive, and they should never drive. Doesn't matter how old they are. But hey, that's my opinion. Now, again, but going back to what calendar we follow, Ariel Lee also said Jewish calendar for me. And yeah, you're right. Rambam already, this is Middle Ages, right? He already ruled about it. He said, the 13 years mentioned for boys and the 12 mentioned for girls are neither lunar years nor solar years, rather years following the Jewish calendar, which correlates the solar and lunar year. These solar and lunar combined years are used for all countings with regard to religious matters. Okay, so what is he saying here? He's mentioning the neither lunar years nor solar years. Why he's mentioning both calendars is because remember where he lived. He lived in Spain, Middle Ages, and the Muslim calendar is 100% lunar, while the Christian calendar was 100% solar, and he lived in both societies, so he was familiar with both calendars. So that's why he said the Jewish calendar is neither one nor the other, it's a combination of the two. We do follow the phases of the moon, but we have to add one extra month every 2 or 3 years to stay in sync with the seasons, to be able, for example, to celebrate Pesach on the spring. It's very important because the Torah says that Pesach has to be celebrated during the springtime. So we need to put the two together. Why is that? Because the lunar year is 11 days shorter than the solar year. That's why. But here Rambam mentions something very interesting. He says that the Jewish calendar should be used for all countings with regard to religious matters. That means that we use it for example, even as early as Brit Milah, the circumcision. How do we count days? The Jewish way, with the day starting in the evening and not at midnight. So we use it to calculate the 8 days for Brit Milah. We use it to calculate bar bat mitzvahs. We use it to calculate yortzites, for example, the Jewish calendar. That is probably the most common one, and it should be also used to celebrate wedding anniversaries, which not everybody does. But it's yeah. Hello, Philip. Welcome to the class. Welcome. We are happy to have you here. So yeah, that's why it's so important to get familiar with the Jewish calendar. And for the bar mitzvah, it's very common. And sometimes in these days, actually, people don't really care so much about having the bar mitzvah at exactly age 13, right? It's more that, well, I want to have the bar mitzvah of my son whenever it's convenient for me and my family. That is the philosophy. Nothing wrong with that. But for families who do care, they come to talk to me. I have to open my Hebrew calendar application on the computer or on the phone to perfectly calculate when that should be according to the Jewish calendar, right? Now, we have another thing that I wanted to discuss with you regarding to bar mitzvah, and it's the big celebration or the big deal that we made out of it, which some rabbis will say that it makes no sense. Some rabbis will say it makes no sense to have such a big deal. Why? Because up to age 13 or up to age 12, boys and girls, they could fulfill the mitzvot if they wanted to. You know that before the age of bar mitzvah, you could, even the talit, you want to wear a talit, you can wear a talit if you want. You're not obligated to do it, but you can wear it. Tefillin too. People say, don't put it, you're not a bar mitzvah. But technically, if you want to do it, you can do it, but you're not obligated to do that. or to pray every day, twice a day, up to the age of 13, you're not obligated, but if you want to do it, good for you, go ahead and do it. So there is a debate here. What is better, when you do something out of free will, or when you do something because you're obligated to do it? Think about that for a second. Most people will say that when you do something out of your free will, is better than doing it because you're obligated to do that. We started the class today talking about this amazing demonstration of manners from the Japanese people after their match against Germany that stayed behind cleaning up the entire stadium. They were under no obligation whatsoever to do it. They just decided to do it. They did it out of their free will, and they were praised because of that. So, from that point of view, doing something out of free will is higher than doing it because you're obligated. But here, we are celebrating the boys and the girls don't have to do it anymore because they want it. Now we are celebrating that they have to do it because God said so. Is that a motive to celebrate? Interesting, right? Karen Farkas, you say, I disagree because then you are basically doing what you want to do. You see, you got something there, Karen. You got something very interesting. Yeah, you are actually in the same neighborhood of thought that some of the rabbis. So another mitzvah point for you. Now, let's go to the Talmud now. Masechet Avodah Zarah, page 3a, where Rabbi Hanina said, greater is one who is commanded and performs than one who is not commanded and performs. At least in the Jewish world, and at least talking about the mitzvot. Why? Well, let's see what the Tosafot say. They say the explanation is that someone who is commanded must constantly struggle to overcome his personal desires in order to fulfill the commandments of his Creator. Do you understand this? And it's what Karen said. You know, if you do it because you want to do it, then what is the challenge there? You're just following your nature. And you will always do what is easy for you to do. But it's not easy to be an observant Jew when you have to do things that sometimes you don't feel like doing it. But you nevertheless, you do it because you feel that, I don't know how to say this without sounding too anthropomorphic, but you do it because you feel that you're making your Creator happy by doing it. Sometimes you don't even understand it. You don't see the point, but you do it because you believe that God said so. And that is the stuff. Stuff. But every time you do that, you're affirming the existence of God, the existence of a Creator. Right? See, Sam Bailey, you said, but it's beneficial when you are commanded to do that, to do it. Well, in this case, we understand. You see, that's the interesting thing. That's the interesting thing. That if we could understand that the mitzvot, the commandments, are beneficial for us, it will be easier for us to do it. Okay, it will be easier for us. That will be, I guess, the next level for us to understand the benefit of all the mitzvot. But most people are not there. So listen to this. It's from the Talmud. Oh, I want to change the words. I don't like this. Rabbi Yosef said, listen to this. Formerly, I used to say that if someone will tell me that the law is in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda, who maintains that one who is blind is exempt from the performance of mitzvot, I will make a feast for the rabbis. Why? Because although I am exempt, being blind, I still fulfill them, because I feel like I want to do it. Now, however, I have heard the ruling of Rabbi Hanina, who said that greater is the reward of one who performs mitzvot out of obligation than the reward of one who performs them while exempt. Therefore, if someone were to tell me that the law is not according with Rabbi Yehuda, I will make a feast for the rabbis because I am obligated in the mitzvot. Then my reward will be greater. And then, you can start understanding. You can start understanding now why we celebrate the bar mitzvah or the bat mitzvah, even though it's the moment where it's the moment when we stop doing things out of the free will and we become obligated to do so. Because the rabbis believe that there is a higher level, so we celebrate that upgrade in our spiritual journey. And that's the thing. And I have one more text that I wanna share with you, and then we are going to talk about the adult bar mitzvah. Okay? So hold that thought, Denise. Hold that thought. And we were talking about that in a minute. Let me read this from Rabbi Akiva Tatz, which, by the way, it's an amazing rabbi. He wrote a lot about medical ethics issues. Okay? His books are bestsellers in the religious world about medical ethics. So he said, when you're commanded to act, you are immediately confronted by resistance. True? And we have to accept that. When somebody tells us what to do, right away, resistance. Your lower self steps in and says, don't tell me what to do. The ego, the I, the deep root of personality wishes to assert itself, refuses to be subdued. Therefore, in order to fulfill a command, you must overcome this inner resistance. And in doing so lies the secret of inner growth. Self-control is at the heart of all personal growth. Okay? However, when you act spontaneously, there is no resistance to overcome, and the action is easy. It is not intrinsically an exercise in self-control, and therefore has relatively little growth potential. Okay? That's the interesting thing. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the adult bar bat mitzvah. We read, and I will bring here, we read that so far that is, once you become 13 or 12, you are a bar mitzvah, like it or not. But that, as we just read, has nothing to do with why we celebrate a bar bat mitzvah. The celebration is an opportunity to, I'm going to repeat myself again, to celebrate that spiritual upgrade in our journey. The fact that we used to do things because we wanted to, and now we do it because we have to, and that is a higher level. So Denise, by the way, if you never had a bat mitzvah and you felt, for example, you did things because you wanted to do it, it's never too late to have a ceremony to celebrate an occasion where you can look at your congregation and say, I'm very happy to say that I'm committing myself to the commandments. It's like getting married sometimes. You can be with a person, you can live with a person under the same roof, and you don't really need a wedding ceremony. And many people do it for many, many years. Till one day said, you know what? We should celebrate this union under the chuppah. We should make it official. We should invite the kedusha, the holiness of God, to come into our homes through a ritual. And we affirm, and people affirm their love under a chuppah with a ceremony. Okay? And the bar mitzvah is kind of like that. You can be living together, let's put it that way, living together with the mitzvot for many, many years without having a formal marriage. At any time in life, you can do the same and say, okay, mitzvot, you can look at the mitzvot at the eye. Mitzvot, we've been living together for 30 years, and I think it's time for us to get married publicly. And then you come to synagogue, and you do a bar mitzvah, a bat mitzvah, and you become son or daughter of a commandment. So it's never too late to do that. Never too late. You can do it at any time, Denise, and I hope you do. I hope you do. So, thank you everyone for tuning in today. You see, everything, This is what I love. Everything, 1 hour of class came from one verse. One verse. The fact that the rabbis say that Esau and Jacob became different at age 13 because that was the age of bar mitzvah. I said Jacob cared about that and he started to go to the house of study. Esau, he didn't pay attention to that and he disregarded all that. Anyway, so thank you so much, everyone. Remember, this class is going to be rebroadcasted if you missed the first part or you want to play it again at 8 p.m. Central Time. And if you want to know what we do at the Shari Zedek, please visit www.szwinnipeg.ca. Lots of programs coming up. You can also visit our website. Please give us the thumbs up for this class. We always like to see that after each broadcast. Please subscribe to our channels so you will be notified every time we go live or every time we upload something to our channel. Okay? And if you're coming to our services, remember, all the services continue to be at Temple Shalom for at least the month of December as well, I believe. But this Friday evening is a special one that is going to be at 200 Tuxedo Avenue. We don't have a venue. Temple Shalom is busy. Bernie Theater, we cannot use it, so we were grateful that one of our congregants is facilitating us his condo, the multipurpose room. So it's going to be at 200 Tuxedo at 5:30, same time if you want to come in person. Otherwise, it's going to be streamed in a different way. So fingers crossed that it's going to work. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Hope to see you soon.